Canst thou heareth me? Chat. I'm just checking because it's some tricky audio. We're launched. I'm heard. Thank you, RC. Look at everybody in the chat. We've got Devious, of course, early again. The last 6 months says the early heart catches the heartworms. Okay. RC's here. Good to see you, my friend. Gerald Scrimshire. Jay Gray saying howdy, howdy. Good to see everybody. It's Monday, my mutants. It is. Which means Mumamo. And you know that Mumamo it's a program that's dedicated 100% to the world's only tabletop role-playing game devoted to heroes, to superheroes.
The only one.
The only one. Mutants Masterdaddy Monday supports that. Happy Mumamo Superfan says Mastermind a Pook. Hand over fist gives us a hand over fist. Hello. Simon Wentworth, evening to you, friend. Sean Holland as well. Lots of people in chat. Did I forget anybody? Did I skip anyone? I hope not. Squire, good to see you. Happy Mumamo unto thee. And, today we're talking about genres.
Indeed we are.
Yeah. And the genres that we are talking about, why all of them, but what genre wouldn't be complete without the world's renowned storyteller, the one, the only, my friend and yours, Steve Kenson.
Hello, everybody.
It is the one, the only, because Alex is on an away mission.
Indeed.
Yeah. So he's out doing a thing, and we're hanging out with folks and talking about genre stuff. And, it's one of those things where one of those subjects that can go anywhere. There's so much to talk about. Yeah. So here's what I'm thinking, Steve. I think let's get into the meat of the matter, and then we'll do some what's in the tank stuff. Talk about a little news, and then call it a day. What do you think?
Sounds like a plan.
Nice. So when we say genres in my M&M, but how? What are we talking about?
So genre is a type of story, basically.
Okay.
So it's a category of storytelling, a type of story. So we have mysteries, and we have fantasy, and we have science fiction, and those larger genres often will have their own subgenres of you'll have urban fantasy, and you'll have post-apocalyptic fantasy, and hard science fiction versus soft science fiction, and all of those sorts of things. And genres are basically just ways of classifying a kind of storytelling, and usually they're defined by as Jay Gray points out, basically various sort of motifs and tropes and storytelling elements.
Yeah.
So far as that goes, that are common. They're a container that certain kinds of stories go in.
It's kind of weird to see Jay Gray's kind of saying the same thing, but only different.
You can't even see Jay's lips moving while he's doing it. It's impressive.
That's great. Okay, so like a collection, a space where there are markers, familiar sort of signs of, whatever it may be that we're...
Right.
Got
and
it.
Obviously relevant to for Mutants and Masterminds, superhero comic books are a particular genre and has numerous subgenres of its own. Interestingly enough, comic books themselves are not a genre. Comic books are a medium that you use to tell stories.
Okay.
And that contain many different genres, just the same way that written prose, just printed books that don't have illustrations aren't a genre. They're a medium that you use to tell stories, or television or film or what have you. They're all media for telling stories, and they have those stories have their own genres so far as
An
that goes.
important, I think, well, for me, an important distinction, because I often think of comics as sort of, like, oh, it's
Yep.
comic, like,
Well, and usually when we think of comic books, superheroes is by far the most common genre in the
yeah.
comics because with the creation of the Comics Code in the 1950s, most other genres of comic books died away. There
Mm,
were a lot of romance and true crime and horror and
yes.
other genres of comics early on in the 30s and 40s when there was just a huge boom in comics publishing. But after the creation of the Comics Code, most of those genres went away because they were no longer as viable or popular as superhero comics. And so superheroes became, pretty much inexorably associated with comic books, as far as that goes.
Yeah. It's interesting when I think about it too. I think that we get stuck. The general populace may think of comics as a genre a lot of because of like the pop art stuff and
Hmm.
they kind of like that. And that maybe is a genre, an expression of art.
Hmm.
But when it comes to comics, yeah, it's a medium. Yeah.
Yep.
There's some great comments here as well. Um, let's see here. Yeah, yeah. A lot of folks talking about the different sorts of genres that there are. The Western,
Hmm.
a true crime I didn't think about, but that's definitely
Yep.
that's a stack of true crime comics that my grandfather had.
Yeah. It's a very
Let's
popular genre in its time.
yeah, absolutely. Let's see. SC Terra Marine, good to see you. Let's see. Let me skip here. Okay, Mastermind Pook says they used to do classic literary tales as comic books back in the day to
Mhm.
encourage kids to read.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
Classics
absolutely.
Illustrated was a very popular line of comics that basically did that.
It's interesting that Claude says this is a great game for superheroes, but where's Green Ronin's Western TTRPG?
Claude, it's so funny you mentioned that because I actually just finished going over the second adventure for the Chrono Crisis trilogy for Astonishing Adventures, and it's a Western,
Hey,
as it so
nice.
happens. So it's a very strange Western, but it's a Western nonetheless.
Yeah, Jay Gray mentions that being said, you do see mediums use comic motifs to heighten certain elements of a genre.
Mhm.
Look at the animated Spider-Man movies by
Yep,
Sony using
absolutely.
elements from comics in their printing.
Absolutely. I mean, when you adapt a work from one medium to another, you make certain changes in order to make it work within the context of that medium. And sometimes you adapt elements of the prior medium, like Jay is talking about the sort of just the colors or the dynamic sort of animation of
Sure.
comic book panels. It was noted in Ang Lee's first Hulk movie that there were elements of the cinematography that used sort of the swipes or multi-screen images of comic panels
Oh yeah, yeah.
screen to create sort of a comic book feel to things.
There was that movie that came out that spawned another movie that I think was called Grindhouse. But what was
Mhm.
it looked like a graphic novel, and it set
Yep.
itself up to have those elements of just really visceral red
Yep.
blood and on a kind of a noir background. But that definitely
Yeah.
strikes me as an effort to paint a thing a certain way.
Exactly.
Uh, that's interesting. Okay, so let's see. There's been recent Frankenstein graphic novel that's released to some acclaim.
Hmm.
Yeah, nice. For my games, I described camera movements or panel changes and such. Okay, yeah,
Sure.
sure.
Sure. Yeah, that's a common.
Um,
Yeah, Sin City, as Squire points out, is another
that was the
film
one
that
I was thinking of. That's
makes a
exact.
lot of use of the comic as its feel, as far as
Yeah,
it goes.
yeah. Sin City was the movie I was thinking of. Exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Jay talks also about bringing in the pows and the bangs and the
Hmm.
all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I got that. That's now. Now,
Yeah.
is there when we're talking about that kind of stylizing or sort of
Hmm.
borrowing of sort of set pieces, if you will?
Right.
What it seems to me like there's a few different kinds of vibes there. There's campy And
hmm
maybe, what did that kind of fall into? What
Well, that's where we
categories?
that's where we start getting into the different sort of subgenres of superhero comics
Yeah.
themselves, and the sort of related subgenres of superheroes appearing in other media. Um, you know,
Mm,
Originally superheroes were, basically a kids genre.
yeah.
They were stories that were written for children. They were fairly simple and straightforward. In spite of that fact, though, especially some of the very first comics were also very violent by modern standards. Batman, originally carried a gun in his first appearances. Superman had no problem, throwing people into walls. You know,
Gotcha.
um, that sort of a thing. Even though that these were things that were marketed towards kids. Um, and as time went on, the audience for comics matured and grew up with them. You had a lot of soldiers during World War II who were reading comic books because they were written material that was easy to get and easy to carry around.
Right.
You had a lot of college students in the 1960s who were reading comics because they had grown up on them, and were still reading them when they were adults. And so the comics genre would continue to evolve as the medium did. As far as that went, you would see the sometimes more nuanced themes of the golden age largely get pushed aside by the comics code and the notion that comics needed to be a safer medium for children, and
Right.
therefore a lot of anything that was more adult oriented had to be pushed aside, and very very careful guidelines about how heroes and villains interacted and things like that had to be put into place.
Yeah, a bit of
Um,
history we've talked about before. How that kind of what was it? What was the comics agency? What was it called again?
it was ultimately called the Comics Code Authority, which was
That was yeah.
self-imposed by the comics industry, actually, in order to address hearings that were being held in front of Congress about regulating the comics industry. And essentially, the industry got ahead of that, set up their own set of guidelines, and said, "Look, we're self-regulating. There's no need to regulate us. It's all good."
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
A common move by industries, across the board to try to keep from, the government from meddling in their affairs. Yeah.
right, right.
And so they went pretty hard.
Yeah, and they did, and that's sort of what led to that much more sort of campy tone that we get in the '60s.
Yeah.
Because things become very sanitized,
Yeah.
and very campy. Very just sort of larger than life, very colorful, but very bombastic. And you get the sort of the Batman TV show, sort of style from the '60s, which in and of itself was comics being adapted to television, and then the style of that, because the show was so popular, folded back into the comics and became so much more influential about the way Batman was portrayed in the comics.
Got you. Yeah. So Devious is mentioning some Frederick P. Wortham,
Yes, indeed.
who caused some scandal, or is it
Uh,
or was this person like a kind of a moral authority?
oh, yeah, Wortham claimed to be a scientific authority, as far as psychology and child health. How much he was really truly qualified about that is
Yeah.
debatable. But yeah, Wortham was a key figure in driving the notion that comics, as they were pre-comics code, were a bad influence on kids, and that essentially that's why they needed to be regulated, was because they were teaching children all sorts of terrible things, essentially.
Got you. Got you. All right. So we've kind of laid out and all of this is fascinating to me, and it helps me sort of zero in on the kind of bigger picture, and that
Mhm.
is, how many genres can you fit into the comic book medium?
And apparently the answer is all of them,
That's right.
as far as that goes, because since comics have been published, more and more graphic novels and comic style stories are used to tell pretty much any sorts of story, of all kinds of genres, from superheroes to mysteries to westerns to spy thrillers to romance stories, and virtually all kinds of genres find their way into the comics to one way or another.
Yeah.
To some degree, some of those genres also influence the superhero comics because superhero comics are just so just take inspiration from everywhere. And so you'll often see elements of lots of other subgenres like cosmic horror or science fiction
Oh, sure.
or
Yeah.
fantasy find its way into the superhero comics.
Very, very interesting. I'm looking at, hey, Dominic, good to see you, friend. Dominic says,
Mm,
ooh, I love me some genre.
right.
Well, you got all of it today, and we'll even mix them up and match them. But yeah, we've got lots. Yeah, lots to talk about. Wortham in the chat. Yeah, it's Seduction of the Innocent, and where the comics were the reason that youth became delinquents.
Indeed.
Which holds true today. If you look at the chat, they are a bunch of
They are a
delinquents.
bunch
I'm
of
just telling you.
delinquents.
But delinquents notwithstanding, um, there our chat is, I would say, a little bit. Their expertise in this arena is developed. Like they've,
Mhm.
we're
Indeed.
talking about World War II themes and
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. If I'm a new GM or I'm embarking on to begin my work in this arena, what should I be doing? What should I be considering? What should I be looking to? How do I manage? Because the other thing as well is with so many genres, where do you even friggin' begin?
Well, I think that the best place to begin is to remember that genres are just a way of categorizing stories.
Hmm,
So basically begin with, the idea that tabletop RPGs are about storytelling. Um, and therefore, what kind of stories do you want to tell? If you want, presumably, if you're coming to Mutants and Masterminds as a game, chances are you want to tell a superhero story. So
yeah,
that's one big genre, and then from there, start looking at the subgenres that are available to you. What kind of superhero story do you want to tell? Okay, you probably want to tell a team story,
mm,
because it's tends to be RPGs tend to be a team oriented thing, and you're probably going to
yeah,
have multiple players, so chances are the characters are going to be a team. That's a particular subgenre. Are you going to want to tell something that is a more modern style of superhero comics, something that is more old fashioned and golden or silver aged, something that is more deconstructionist and takes apart some of the different genre elements and really looks at them in a much sort of harsher light, and
sure,
says, basically holds it up and says, this is kind of silly, oftentimes. Those are all viable options for your story. So a lot of it in terms of genre really just comes down to what kind of story do you want to tell, and then looking at the examples of those stories, and seeing how those stories are told essentially. If you want to make your stories feel like that, start taking your inspiration from the source material.
nice. Okay, so let's talk. Well, real quick, a couple comments here I want to
Mm,
call out. Oh, Jacob Blackman talks about it's what I love about superhero comics and setting everything fit into the stories in some way.
yep, me too.
Absolutely. Devious says we're not delinquents because of comics, but because of role
There's
playing
role-playing
games.
games, which are
Sure,
far,
sure.
which, as the Satanic Panic tells us, are far worse than comics.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a oh yeah. Now this is Vilith asks a very good question. They just arrived. Can gravy be a genre?
No,
No. Okay.
gravy is a medium.
That's right. I like it. Claude mentions that speaking of delinquents, there's a Valiant comic series called The Delinquents.
Hmm. There is.
Gene, what a great idea. Any ideas for making Ocean's 11 a group heist game?
Yeah, I mean, heist games or heist scenarios are a particular kind of story. They're a specific genre, of fiction, and especially film. Heists are really popular in film.
Yeah.
Um, And a lot of the best advice for that again is to go back, look at the source material, look at a lot of classic heist movies, and see how they're put together and how their stories are told, and then figure out how you're going to adapt that to the context of your game. One
Hmm.
example that comes to mind is that a lot of elements of heist stories are told in flashback. It's very common in a heist movie for you to pick up the story in the middle somewhere,
Mm.
and for a lot of what leads up to that story to be told in flashbacks, or as the characters are pulling off the heist, you'll see them doing the different steps of it, and then there will be short flashbacks to basically them planning those elements of the heist. So you get filled in on basically why they're doing what they're doing from a narrative perspective. And one, like Dominic suggests, one great example of that is using the edit scene capability of hero points, to say in a given situation, okay, we the players are not going to be able to pull off a heist,
Hmm.
but our characters are very good at this, and so presumably they have planned something for this situation. So when they come into this unexpected situation, one of the players says, okay, I want to spend a hero point to edit the scene to say we planned for this, and this is what we planned. We're going to go do a flashback scene, talk about our plan, and then we're going to come back to the regular scene and we're going to implement that plan.
I like it. I like it. Now, yeah, I see it in my mind. Having I couldn't tell you when the last time I watched a heist movie, but I see the quick
Mhm.
cuts and
Yep.
I'm the guy on the computer and I'm the person running up, acrobat who's slowly slithering up a wall or whatever.
Right, right. Dangling from the ceiling by my
That's right.
harness.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, I totally see it. And so, help me out here. So let's say, kind of continuing on with the notion of a heist.
Hmm.
Maybe your heroes thwarting, or maybe it's a bunch of you are villains and you're stealing some stuff.
Hmm.
Um, the how do you get that genre element? How do you make that happen? I'm not quite following how the hero points to do edit scenes for those flashbacks. Like, it seems to me like that's a lot of admin that you're
Not
doing. Yeah,
not
help me out.
necessarily.
Sure.
So, the example in the case of a film, obviously, the whole story is written before the film is shot. So,
Yeah.
the director and the producer and the actors all know where everything is going. It's all written out. They're just playing it out, essentially.
Mm.
Um, in a tabletop context, you're making up the story as you go, and you're hopefully not following a script because that's not a very exciting adventure. You want some
Yeah.
random and unknown elements and some surprises and a few curveballs here and there. But that kind of thing, although it creates dramatic tension, doesn't necessarily work in conjunction with the idea that that these characters are professional thieves. That they've
Yeah.
they've planned this whole thing out. So the two ways you can approach it, uh, largely speaking, are you can either have the players plan out the whole heist during the game, which honestly is kind of dull,
Yeah.
and usually involves a lot of side arguments and
Right.
lengthy discussions about things, or you can just get right on with it and say, okay, you guys have a plan, and maybe you have the broad strokes of what it looks like, and we're just going to play it. And because you have this additional resource with your hero points, when situations come up in play and you feel like this is something you guys would have planned, spend one of your hero points and we're going to do a flashback scene where we're going to show what the plan is, and then we're going to do it.
Absolutely brilliant. That makes perfect sense to me. And I mean, just again, another testament to the whole notion of hero points and how it
Mhm.
really does create an immersive experience for everybody. That's
Right.
wonderful.
And the
Yeah.
the additional element of the genre is that occasionally you'll get those heist stories where you'll get an unexpected curveball of, oh, we didn't plan for this.
Right.
And that's a great opportunity for the game master to be like, now I'm going to give you a hero point, but
Sure.
this is going to be, something is going to go wrong. Like, your plan isn't exactly going to work right, or something is unexpected is going to happen.
That's
or something like
that's
that.
great. Yeah. And then that is also just keys into that moment, that tense moment of, uh-oh.
Right.
Yeah, that's great.
I had a moment when I was actually running a game at a convention, and the characters were in what seemed like a very like, oh, like we're done, like we figured it all out, like it seems like everything's good, and I gave everybody hero point, and everybody's like, uh-oh, we're not done, are we?
That's awesome. That's how. And how did they react to that? Were you running a game for people who kind of understood that, or
enough people at the table understood that there were a couple of players who were just like, yeah, something's up, like this is not good.
What a fun moment, for people to have the realization. And if you didn't get it, you'd get it soon enough. How fun. That's really great. John has a couple things that are really interesting here. Non-standard superhero adjacent genres. The PCs are physicians, ER nurses, security staff at a big city medical center that exclusively handles superhuman patients.
Sure. And that's an example of basically folding in another genre into the superhero setting.
Yeah.
And taking like medical dramas, which is a genre of its own, and saying, what would a medical drama be like in a world with superheroes? If you're going to be running, pick any, medical drama you want, really, House or any of them.
Grey's Anatomy
Grey's Anatomy, right? Anything like that. What would that kind of story be like in a world with superheroes? And you can just adapt its genre conventions, things like, the diagnosis challenge, of figuring out what the problem with the patient is, and how much more is that complicated by the fact that, there are aliens and people with superpowers and all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. You could do the Grey's Anatomy approach, which is sort of like there's an airplane that's crashed into the actual hospital. There's a semi truck that is a hospital. This careening into the ocean.
A super battle is happening outside, and somebody is literally punched through the wall of the hospital and left unconscious, and you're the ER doctor who's called to treat the guy. Do you even know who they are? Are they a super criminal? Are they an alien? Are they a known hero?
Oh, and the things that you would need to put into place, the protocols to handle this kind of stuff, that in itself would be really, really fun to sort of unpack.
Sure.
I like this. The PCs are unjustly imprisoned in a supermax facility, perhaps framed for crimes, or even heroes who had their minds transferred to the bodies of prisoners. Very interesting.
Yeah. That's a classic superhero adventure concept, is the breaking out of super prison, essentially.
I like that we do touch on this every once in a while, and that's the super medical drama, which is shrinking down to the size of the viruses that you have to punch from. Yep. Yeah, that's great.
Classic Fantastic Voyage story.
Absolutely. Mighty Med. My kids made what? I don't know. Yeah, I'm not familiar, Squire, with that particular Disney property. Though I did actually, back in the day, ask a Disney actor child to flip off a Microsoft executive. I didn't realize that was the case, and they did it. And someone said, "Hey, that's a Disney actor," and I was like, "Oh, whoopsies." Yeah, from some kind of
probably some kind of contract violation.
Yeah, probably, right. Some kind of that's which is what they made me like. Basically, had corrupted this child actor by making him flip off somebody. But Mighty Med, gotcha. Yeah, no, I've not seen that. But yeah, okay. So again, now I'm starting to warm up as a new GM as I'm kind of building the story. I've kind of picked my genre, and I'm. Where would you send people, both like to the Green Ronin, Mutants Masterminds library, or existing sort of things out there? Where should I go to mine some of these tropes and themes?
So you're going to want to take a look at the Game Master's Guide,
Hmm.
which has a lot of tropes in it. It talks both about broader genres as well as the tropes that are associated with specific characters. For example, the villain archetypes in that book have a whole bunch of sort of classic tropes that are associated with that type of character. That you might want to introduce in one form or another to make players go, oh, okay, it's this kind of guy,
Yeah.
as far as that goes. Also, the Time Traveler's Codex is a great resource for looking at different eras and time
Mm.
periods and the like as genres. We particularly look at the Golden Age, Silver Age, and Iron Age periods as both time periods and genres in that book, as well as a bunch of other potential settings. Claude mentions, although this is not a M&M resource specifically, but the TV Tropes website is basically all about breaking down genres into their different tropes. And a trope is just a theme or a storytelling device that's regularly repeated or common in a particular genre.
Yeah. I'm, so folks, when you are hanging out on our YouTube page, you will see these books linked at the bottom. You can buy them.
Mm.
And there's a couple things here I need to fix, but check that out for sure. We'll provide links in the show notes as well. But that's great. So another question that I have, tvtropes.com. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's great. And then, yes, we do have links. I know, Jay Gray. You're the very first link
Right.
wizard.
I know, right? We have
but,
links that were not provided by Jay Gray. That's amazing.
I know, absolutely. Hey, so what we should do real quick is take a little break of this conversation, and maybe we should do some what's in the tank?
Yeah, let's do.
Well, let's do this first. I went to all the work to create this, and now it's time for what's in the tank.
That's a creaking door, right?
Yes.
It could be something else. I'm not sure.
Could be. It does come across as a little flatulent. Listen, friends, if you haven't had time to acquaint yourself with the think tank, you really are doing yourself a disservice. And I say that not just as somebody who is, here to tell you about the Atomic Think Tank, but it is really an awesome. It is turning out to be all the things I had hoped, and it's not. That's a door, Squire.
It's a door.
It's not a. It's not
a story, and we're sticking to it.
That's right. That's why I cackled when.
I mean, really, the Atomic Think Tank is like our chat, only like magnified.
Yeah, it is, and
slightly slower.
Slightly slower, exactly. Also, I would say that it is a space where, as a community manager, one of the things that I hope to always do is create a space where people can flex their expertise and not be one of us.
Right.
And I think, my vibe is that the think tank is really capturing those opportunities and really doing as a regular challenge. We've done, I think we'd said, a perfect pugilist.
Yep.
What was that?
We did one shots from last
time. That was the one shot challenge is the last one that we did. And
before that, I believe.
What was that?
Pulp Heroes before Pulp Characters.
That's right. That's the one I was trying to think of. Yeah. Pulp Heroes. And so, the last challenge that we issued was the one shot challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty stoked. Let me get my shares on so that everybody can watch along. All right, sharing coming.
Jay Gray points out that M&M has its own TV Tropes page as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Well, that's how you know we're doing it right. Here we go. It's Nate Robbins.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, Nate put together a one-shot, Damage Inc., and it is fantastic. I mean, good for him. I don't think Nate's with us on the show today, but
Congratulations, Nate.
Give that a little heart. You know what he wins? He wins a PDF of his choice.
Awesome.
We just, give him a code and he picks it up.
Right.
I hadn't really thought of what today's challenge could be.
Well,
what do you think?
I think today's challenge should be for somebody to outline how to do a genre of their choice.
Hey,
Mutants and Masterminds.
I like that. Okay, so would that be then
adapt your favorite genre to Mutants?
Hey, that's great. Okay, perfect. I like that. Thanks, Devious. People are going to start to figure out now that they can send messages to me and that they will show. So we'll have to do something about that. The deadline will be for the next show.
Yes,
so you have a week. Yeah. So you have a week. But congratulations, Nate. Reach out to me. I'll reach out to you. We'll figure some stuff out and get you your PDF. And that's super great. What I love about that too is that, this is Nate's, it's his first one shot, like his kind of, he just dove right in, and that's what this space is all about. Let me grab some other things. Now, Steve, you have been prolific. You've got quite a few things that you've been kind of, adding to the library. Let me get in here real quick.
Provoking a lot of conversation.
Now, are you posting these to the Commons?
Doing them to the Freedom City Library.
There we go. Let's go. Let's jump in there. Boop. Freedom City Library.
I have been doing a series of articles / posts on the various power effects in the game and providing folks with some sneak peeks at some ideas about how to modify them, as well as some of the ways which we have been modifying them in Valiant Adventures. And
I love that.
Provoked some discussion. So
yeah, extra limbs, flight, immortality, illusion, elongation, environment.
Yep. I just did immunity today, which is a pretty
yes, here it is right here
in and of itself.
And I'm still learning how we categorize these. Look at all these folks.
Right.
I still am not a fan of that. Once you see it, it can't be unseen.
Right.
And so there's that. And, but we've also got a bunch of articles written by folks. We have, adapting different genres into an M&M game. Who did that one? Is that you,
I think that was,
Devious?
I think I was, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, we got bringing the pulp era to life in M&M. Let's see, using crash damage from knockback rolls for throwing and full force leaping. I mean, we're getting into the weeds on this. I love it. Absolutely love it. Urban heroes. Alongside you, Steve, you did illusion, immortality.
Yep. I'm just working my way through the effects alphabetically.
I love it. Let's see. The Great Fog of 2022 in St. Lawrence.
Yes.
I love that. I mean, this is, and that's just, that list is just a truncated list of what's in the library. Then we've got in the Aegis files, we've got
actual characters.
We got actual heroes, villains, all kinds of characters. Let's take a look at the feed. I believe that's going to give me what I want. Yeah, here we go. Victor the Viper. Whoa, Judith. This is awesome by Chris Davies. This is so great. So we're talking a little bit of everything, right? I mean, this is phenomenal. Look at this.
There's been a whole really diverse range of character posts.
Yeah, just phenomenal stuff. Really, really great stuff. And and just so folks know, these aren't official things that we are posting, but they are certainly officially enjoyed. But they are submissions from the community. And so we've got Monarch. Let's see what else we've got cooking here. Kieran Black. Look at that.
Speaking of extra limbs.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Look at this creature. This is Wrath.
Yeah.
Steinbrewer is really
Also
going
from
ham.
their St. Lawrence setting. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Great. This is phenomenal. So it really is an opportunity for you to just kind of immerse yourself in Eminem, in this medium, and really get into it. There's some, what is Sturmrufer by The Man Now Dog, who was last week's winner, by the way.
Yes, indeed. We have such a creative community.
Yes.
It is really great to have a space for them to be able to express their creativity altogether.
It's amazing. It's just really, really great. Spherians. This is great. The Spherians, a group of 5 amorphous aliens, found themselves unceremoniously introduced to Earth.
Yep.
Yeah, this is really great.
Literally 5 blob aliens in a trench coat.
Right. I love it. And so, you can be a part of this, and you can engage with this group of very creative, very warm, very engaged community of people who are all about not just Mutants Masterminds, but also, age games and all of the the entire library is represented here at the think tank. But you can dive in, and all you have to do is head over to the Atomic Think Tank. Go to atomicthinktank.com and you just fill out it's 3 questions. Super, super simple. Unless you've got an invite from someone on the inside. And if you do,
where would someone get that?
Well, you would be able to, you can get it from me, or you can get it from someone in chat, or because, chat can invite, not chat specifically, because that would just be reckless. But you can invite people who are a member, who are active members of the Atomic Think Tank, can invite friends without having to go through the 3 answer thing. The presumption, of course, is that you're vetting them, and
you will only invite the highest quality people.
That's right. So yes, only the friendliest, will be allowed. So that's what's in the tank, and there is so much more for you folks to dig into. And again, like I said, it's Mutants and Masterminds is going gangbusters for sure. Wait, Jay Gary got in? How?
You slipped past all of your defenses, Troy.
All of my mechanisms. Only the coolest nerds here, says Stannon. But yeah, so get into the mix, have some fun. You may be somebody. I got a lot of folks who are like, one of the questions is, well, how do you, what do you intend to bring to, and they're like, can I just read? And it's like, you know what? You can, you can just read. That's okay. That's absolutely fine. And so it's a great place for you to, but maybe you might want to just drop a little heart on something, a little sort of a cheer when you find something interesting. And I bet you will not be able to help yourself. You will want to ask a question or two because there's some great stuff going on. But before you do any of that, we need your help, and it's a mission only you can undertake, and that would be make sure you subscribe, make sure you're liking things, make sure you tickle that bell, do all the things that you need to do that you hear other people ask. Now, our numbers, the majority of people who watch our program are subscribed. There's about 30 some odd % of you that watch a lot of our program, but are not subscribed. And so, and you're returning, you're coming back. So why not just subscribe? Come on, just do it. Maybe you're grudge watching or something, but that's okay. Just, give us
a grudge watching. You can still subscribe.
Absolutely. Don't you want to know?
Right.
When we go live? So do that for me, please. No matter where you're at, if you're over on Facebook, if you're over at on the YouTubes, if you're watching on LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm ridiculous.
That's never not funny.
I know, it's just so something. Anyway, or even on Twitch. Make sure that you are, join the fam. And give us a subscribe and share with a friend. Also, one other thing that you might want to consider
Mm.
Over the course of the show, we have a very lively, active live chat.
Hmm.
But that doesn't replace the necessity for people to ask questions and engage on the video after it's, if you're seeing this on demand, ask a question and drop it into the chat that you see
Hmm.
under the video on YouTube, perhaps, if that's where you are. But yeah, do so. And again, tell a friend. We certainly appreciate it. And it really has helped us out a great deal. We get quite a few people
Hmm.
checking out the stream because of your recommendations, and that's the
Yes,
strongest sort of way to get it done.
indeed,
Awesome.
indeed. Gene,
Uh,
that book is coming along, but right now Alex is focused on the time travel trilogy. That is the current top priority project.
that is the book that shall not be named.
Indeed, that is the book that shall not be named.
Absolutely, and yeah, and also remember, as far as Pook says, 18 people are watching right now, and only 2 of us hit the like button. Yeah, absolutely, get over there and hit the like button.
Why not?
But we're actually closer to like almost 200 people watching right now
Wow.
across all of our platforms. So you're out there, and we love you. So give us the likes. Okay, so let's talk about. Thank you, RC, for the thumb. I'll take both.
Right.
Uh, what? So we've talked about sort of how to wade into this,
Hmm.
to the genre of genres, and we've talked about sort of where to go to kind of maybe find some inspiration, and what's your source. What are some other thoughts that you have for folks who are engaging in the maybe they're mid making of all of this, like or some things they might want to avoid, some problem areas
Mhm.
or challenges.
I think that the key thing is to make sure that you've got player buy-in for your whatever genre you want to work with. As far as that goes, there has been a there's been a sort of a genre unto itself of deconstructing a lot of genres,
Hmm.
of basically playing with genre tropes and expectations in order to subvert them or reverse them. um, and that's intended to basically create unexpected twists and sometimes commentary on the genre itself. um, and that's a perfectly viable form of storytelling, if that's what you're going for. But if you're not careful and you don't have clear buy-in from your players into the genre you want, you can end up with that sort of story, even if you don't intend it,
Yeah.
where players are like, well, I know that the genre says that the expectation is this, but I'm going to do the opposite, or I'm going to question why this even exists at all. um, and that can start to get you into the, well, it just does because that's the way the genre is,
Right.
as far as that goes. You know Secret identities, just to pick one random example of superhero comics. That's a genre trope in the superhero comics. Lots of superheroes have secret identities. And is that a really super reasonable thing? No, not especially. Especially considering how flimsy a lot of superhero disguises are. But right, as Claude says, domino masks just conceal your identity, okay?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I mean, you know, um, and that's just part of the genre. If if players just can't, for one reason or another, buy into that genre element, then that's a conversation to be had. That just they feel it just absolutely is just destroying their gaming experience. Then obviously that's something to talk about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, but basically, talk to the players and say, hey, this is the kind of game I want to run, this particular genre that comes with certain expectations. Are we okay with that notion?
Yeah.
This type of superhero game is very such that the heroes are going to be very against killing anybody. you know is that an expectation everybody's going to be okay with?
Right, right. And I think that that's smart too. The whole notion of, I want to do something, but I want it to be very unique. And so I'm going to take the trope and I'm going to change it so that well, sometimes the joy is the trope, right?
Is the
Like,
trope. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Well,
yeah,
because it's part of the experience you're trying to create. And so if
yeah.
you take those pieces out, it's not the same thing anymore. And it might still be something good, but it's not necessarily that thing.
Yeah, I think it's fun to do some experimental stuff with your TTRPG table, but maybe if
Sure.
you're kind of stepping into this and it's a new experience, maybe go with what we know.
Right. And I think it's important to do those experiments deliberately rather than, just sort of have folks introducing elements to the game that may not belong there.
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense a lot. I love this comments in chat. They are
Mhm.
a good pair of glasses is all you need, says
Yep.
Devious. I like this. RC says, my character looks like they have eyeshadow on, but they take off the mask and their face is clean, okay? It's just, that's how heroes work.
Just how
I
it
like that.
works.
Fantastic. Okay. And so Claude says, you need a good mix of using and subverting tropes.
Yeah, it's to a point, and you have to be very careful about where you choose to subvert the tropes or you choose to interpret them differently,
Yeah.
just so that you don't throw people's expectations too far out of whack.
That
You
makes
want to
sense.
you want to surprise the players, but you don't want them to be like, "This is not the game I signed up for."
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, then that's just a bummer.
Right.
And also to be sure that, yeah, like RC says, pleading, begging my players not to be
Not
murder
to be murder
hobos.
hobos. Yeah.
Yeah. That is hilarious. Always the players are there to subvert all your hard work.
Hmm.
Now, Steve, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Mm.
I do want to mention that next week I've kind of forgotten what this is. Oh, I forgot this too. Well, one thing I do want to say, I almost left this out, but this topic was brought up by our buddy Tempo,
Yes.
Temporary. So I
And
want to say to
SC Terra Marine too, right?
well, SC Terra Marine's got next week for
Oh, okay.
sure. I'm not sure if let me double check to see if let me look in the calendar and make sure. I just have Tempo down.
Okay.
And so I think that there was one of the shows that they kind of that there was a collaborative effort on, but Tempo, listen, friend, you get
Yeah.
a hero point, and basically it just gives you some amazing things that you can do in real life.
Hmm.
And so just I've got to put
Spend
your
it
list together.
wisely.
Yeah, spend it wisely, and enjoy with our compliments. Now next week the program is Going Bananas,
Yes.
Monkeying Around in Eminem,
Yep.
and that was S.E. Terra Marine, and I wrote down Dr. Simeon.
Yep. It's going to be
So
all about apes and monkeys in comic book superheroes, which is, speaking of subgenres,
I love
almost
it.
one unto itself.
That's right. That's absolutely right. I don't know where the stay tuned part comes in because that's not
We
in my description.
we will set our travel from the beginning of Multiverse May to Earth Ape, and we will see what awaits us.
I love it. I love that. And so, yeah, thank you, SC Terra Marine. You'll get your hero point next week
Mhm.
when we debut our program. Steve, what's going on in the Steve Kenson cinematic universe?
So one thing that I am working on now that folks in chat and folks watching this later on can consider is I have been working on taking some older edition short Mutants and Masterminds adventures
Mm,
and adapting them to our third edition rules and formatting and the like,
hey.
so that we can re-release them for folks who either have fond recollections of them from the previous editions and might want a current edition version, or folks, because unbelievably, the current edition has been around for like 14 years. For folks who were not familiar with these sort of short adventures and products from earlier in the game's history and might want an opportunity to check them out.
The next
for
generation.
the next generation, as it were. And Gene, yes, we are planning on putting them up on Roll20 as well.
There you go. Big news. That's
So
very exciting.
my question was,
Yes.
if folks have a particular short adventure from Mutants and Masterminds past, particularly from the first and second editions, that you would like to see be given new life in the third edition, let us know. Drop us a line at letsplay@greenronin.com.
How about
And
I run a poll too over
yeah,
at on the think tank?
I was going to say, or drop by the Atomic Think Tank and let us know.
Beauty.
And we will prioritize accordingly.
Absolutely. Well, that is great stuff. Yeah, and so I'll get that poll up very shortly after the show. And yeah, at a couple minutes left, I just want to say thank you to chat. You are always a delight and very fun and distressing all at the same time. Steve, thank you. What a, you're flying solo, sort of, because I'm here, but I'm kind of 0.5 of a resource for you. But yeah, great program, really great information and great detail, and also some awesome news for folks.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, Troy. Thanks for your help.
Absolutely. All right, friends, have a great rest of your week. Make sure you stop by Thursdayge because we'll be doing some Thursdaygy stuff. And with that, I say goodbye.